kids, if we aren't instilling in them something to want to be better or to do better. To me, teaching as a first-time teacher and teaching today, it isn't really teaching about the curriculum at all. See, here in Fairview, we believe that character is, not the circumstance makes the person, right? So teaching is about teaching children to love learning, become good citizens, and giving them the tools to be whatever they want to be when they grow up. So these tools are looking at social and emotional skills that promote good character. So we're going to look at 6 different ways that we can use to build character in our children, right? So the first one is to understand that, next slide, Ms. Chan. So the first one is to remember that every child is unique. Your child is unique, my child is unique. So children differ in remarkable ways from each other in their budding personalities. It's easy for us to say it's the child's nature, but it is both nature and nurture. See, don't chalk up your child's personality to just their nature, maybe they could be a little bit naughty, a little bit mischievous, or the nurturing that you provide. You see, an American developmental psychology say that both matters, both nature of the child and the way you nurture your child, it matters, and both work together in tandem to create the diversity of children's and adults' personalities. So again, this is the number 1 golden rule before we approach in developing your child's character. So the second point I would like to make in helping to develop your child's character, so next slide, right? So it is to encourage play. So play is a huge influence on a child's development. See, play helps kids develop physically, mentally, and emotionally. It teaches them to work in groups, they settle conflicts, develop their imagination, and try on different roles. When kids play, they practice decision-making, they learn to stand up for themselves, they create, they explore, and they lead. In our early years program, we have structured and unstructured playtime, which allows children to learn through play. See, intentionally creating this environment for our young children plays a huge influence on their development. Children engage in play for a range of reasons, but one of the key reasons researchers agree on is to make sense of the wider world around them and their experiences. The ways that you can make play at home is to make play meaningful. So children play to make sense of the world around them and to find meaning in an experience by connecting it to something that they already know. So through play, children also express and understand their understanding of their experiences. Play also should be joyful. Of course, play may have its frustrations and challenges, but the overall feeling is one of enjoyment, motivation, thrill, and pleasure. Right? So play should also be actively engaging. So watching your children play, and you will usually see that they will become deeply involved and often coming physical, mental, and verbal engagement. All right? So play also should be iterative. Play is not static, meaning that children play to practice skills. So that they are trying out possibilities, different ways. They revise hypotheses, they discover new challenges, and also leading to deeper learning. And the last thing about play, encouraging play with your children, is that play is socially interactive. Play allows children to communicate ideas, to understand others through social interaction, paving the way to building deeper understanding and also more powerful relationships, right? And this brings us to our third point on developing your child's character. So here it says, tell stories from literature and life. See, parents and teachers, we use stories to teach moral lessons long before books were even invented. As you tell the stories of your life and the world around you, you convey lessons in values and ethics to your children. And as you discuss the stories you see around you on television, in books, in the media, you reinforce your own values, right? Learning about real life events allows our children to truly understand each scenario in a local and also global context. I'm sure we who have children or have young ones around us notice that children are extremely inquisitive. They'll keep asking questions, how and why. And there is a tendency for us as parents that, especially when we are very engrossed in our own daily, the intricacies of our lives, we will normally just brush it off. But it is very important to understand that children are naturally curious about the world around them. And to indulge in their curiosity, we allow them opportunities to actively enjoy learning, and this love of learning will be sustained throughout their lives. See, inquiry-based situations let students experiment, they innovate, they explore, they encourage their creativity and imagination. If they're not interested in the way you're teaching them, change the way you teach them. For example, when my students were learning about ratio, it began to make sense to them when I told them that ratio is used when we need to plan for a party. So this got students really excited as they loved the idea of organizing parties. And then it started our application on, it was an application of learning ratio in their everyday lives. So students understood that situations like this, and even more complicated ones, need ratio to ensure that each guest had their fill of food. As they finish making the party menu, we plan and organize an actual party at the end of the unit using ratio skills learning throughout during the unit. So you see here, the implementation of real-life context is vital in character building because it also teaches our children to be self-reliant, right? And then moving on to our next point, the fourth point, right? So encourage independence. I know a lot of us cannot let go. I'm a new mother myself. I cannot let go. I can definitely say that, and I can probably relate to most parents that, I don't want to miss any moment of my child, and I'm always afraid that my child will make a mistake. But you see, the term helicopter parenting is not uncommon these days. Having this approach both at home and in school, there's little room for your child to learn from any mistakes because they're so afraid to step out of line. See, encouraging independence and taking risks is not just free falling into an unknown space, but allowing your child to take the freedom of choice and be able to approach unfamiliar situations and uncertainty with courage and forethought. And this has a huge impact in cultivating their independence of spirit to explore new roles, ideas, and strategies. It also enables them to be brave and articulate in defending their beliefs. All right. And then going to our fifth point. So I talk about a lot of creating situations for your children. So here, the fifth one is really just from ourselves, be a role model, right? It's as simple as that. So the learning community, it does not just embody the school, the teacher, where they study, but definitely around the people they're surrounded with. So the learning community I'm talking about here is the trifecta, which includes parents, school, other stakeholders that centralize around the children itself. It is a huge contributing factor in developing your child's character. So be a role model. Children learn from us through mimicking our behavior and the things we say. Again, as I mentioned earlier, it takes both nature and nurture to develop a child's character. So be a role model for your child. In a classroom, teacher is able to intentionally create moments where the children are able to show empathy, compassion, and respect towards the needs and feelings of others. The learning activities are curated around experiences that allow children to understand the hardships of others and also other aspects. They will also learn to act to make a positive difference to the lives of others and also to the environment. So again, like I said, the trifecta, so it's not just the school intentionally creating this environment for our children, but it's also the parents, you need to be a role model. So when we approach different sort of situations, you need to come in and say, so how would you act in this situation? Giving your child the choice to there's no wrong or right decisions, but it is their decision, and whether it's morally right or not, that is where, you be a role model and you come in, you tell your children, okay, I give you the choice, right? And let them understand the circumstance if they have made that particular choice. Okay. All right. And this brings us to our last point. It is something I think earlier on, we've actually watched a trailer for those who came a little bit earlier. So one of the ways in which we can help with our children's character development is through coaching. So effective coaching helps young children to develop some of the personal skills that will aid them as they get older, which includes resilience, overcoming failure, confidence in going after what they want, creative problem solving, an open and curious approach to new challenges and ideas, collaboration and sharing. So how can you start coaching your children? One of the things earlier on, I said encouragement. So encouragement is a big value that you should, and one of the values I think that, as a home is important to have. You can encourage your children with words or simply just by showing faith and trust in their positive potential. So, for example, for the boy who's acting selfish or the girl, you might say, I'm going to stop reminding you to share because I know you can do it on your own. You can also actively notice your children's behavior when they do something positive. So, for example, when you see your daughter share her toys with another child or your son, you might just say, hey, I noticed that you let your friend play with a special toy. So you don't even need to follow that comment up with praise, because just the fact that you notice, it will have a very positive effect on your child. A basic behavioral principle is this: children will repeat actions that will get them attention from their parents. All right, I'm going to repeat that again. Children will repeat actions that get them attention from their parents. So what this means is that we need to worry more about catching our children doing something right than doing something wrong. Very much often, we will always point out their bad behavior than their good behavior. Right? A second way in which you can start coaching your children is through character feedback. So most parents, us included, find it natural to give negative character feedback to our children. So if a child is easily angered and reactive, we forget that she only sometimes is angry and mean. And so we tend to say things like, why do you have to be so mean? Right? And this actually, when we repeatedly focus on the negative with our children, they start to believe us. So the child who acts angry begins to define him or herself as an angry girl or boy. You can see how important it is to notice when your children behave kindly and to give them a positive character building statement, such as, you're the kind of girl who knows how to be nice to her friends, or you're the kind of boy who knows how to be nice to his friends, right? And next way that we can help, still in the same point, is dishonesty. So a lot of children, I think they are often tempted to lie about their misbehavior. So this isn't an easy problem, but one strategy that works is to separate the misbehavior from the truth or lie. So in other words, when children are honest about the rules that have been broken, they can receive truth bonuses, or if they lie about breaking a rule, then they suffer two separate consequences, one for their misbehavior and one for the lie. See, here we want to praise our children for good work too. So character development is also enhanced by opportunities to do good around the world. So volunteering to help at food banks, helping coach younger children or their younger siblings, or giving money to a family chosen charity. All these little efforts instill important habits in your children, but don't force them to help at, like a soup kitchen, a food drive alone. See, join them, be part of the process, intentionally exposing your children to this kind of, volunteering help can have a huge benefit for your child. Of course, it's really hard to find time for such things, hard to interact with people who seem very different from us, and tempting to feel judgmental towards people who need help. But the payoffs in having your children exposed to this kind of environments can be very, very enormous, right? So the last point I'd like to make here is that character development begins at home and continues at school. So as a parent, consider how you can bring some of your best character building ideas to your child and also to their teacher. So you can have a voice in having the teacher, choose character building reading materials, activities, and speakers. As I talk about all of this, if you're listening very closely, you'll notice that I repeatedly use some words. You see, like being an inquirer, having collaborative approaches, asking them to be thinkers, asking them to be more principled, caring, being open-minded, risk takers. So all of these attributes are actually what the IB believes in. So in our international baccalaureate, they aim to develop inquiring, knowledgeable, caring young people to help create a better and more peaceful world through intercultural understanding and respect. So this end, right? So in the 10 attributes, we have our inquirer, we have being knowledgeable, thinker, communicators, principled, open-minded, caring, risk-takers, balanced, and also reflective. So you can see that the last 6 points that I've talked about, so that being an inquirer, so this was linked to the play-based learning where I say encourage play, because we want to develop their natural curiosity. and we have being knowledgeable, and this is linked to the, telling stories from literature and life, where they explore concepts, ideas, and issues that both have local and global significance. Being a thinker is also linked to being the play-based learning, where they exercise initiative in applying thinking skills critically, and also understanding how to recognize and approach complex problems. And then we have both our principle and being open-minded. So this is linked to being independent, encouraging independence in your child, and also being a risk taker, where they approach unfamiliar situations and uncertainty with courage and forethought, and have the independence of spirit to explore new roles, ideas, and strategies. All right, so these are the 10 attributes of the IB, which we believe in developing the character in your child. Here in Fairview, okay, we have, I think earlier on, like I said, we have our counseling, our coaching program, our AS coaching program. It is designed to develop and enhance not just the students' agency, ownership, and self-efficacy, but it's also to develop their character on the way. So you see, coaching is a really expensive process, every successful company employs, because it has the highest ROI, the return on investment of any human resources program. However, only very few get to be transformed by that experience. So we believe that every child can benefit from a goal and action-oriented mindset, which is why we developed this coaching program to make sure that all these 10 attributes, not just in this program itself, but through all the learning activities that we have in school, to allow them this platform to develop their character to become an internationally minded and also a good citizen of the world. And with that, I would like to just summarize again, to the 6 points I said in developing your child's character. So every child is unique. All right. Again, it is both nature and nurture that matters. Encourage play, whether it is, there are some situations we don't allow, we say, oh, don't play that, it's pretty scary. But if you don't allow your child to take that risk, how would they know and how would they learn from it? So again, the third point I said earlier on is tell stories from literature and life, encourage independence, be a role model yourself, and lastly, positive coaching. So here's a thought to leave with you. What is missing in your child, child's right now? In this day and age, it is time to integrate more social and emotional learning throughout the day. It's time to create kids with strong character. So kids we all can be proud of, because you were there to create an environment for them through their daily lives, through school and home. Character matters, and it matters to our children. And with that, thank you very much for listening. Ms. Chan, you're on mute.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Miss Elaine. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate you sharing these 6 points with us. Now we open the floor for engagement from our participants, from our parents, a team who've joined us today. Any questions from Miss Elaine? You're most welcome, Cindy. Thank you for joining us. Any thoughts? I, for one, benefited from your sharing, Elaine. Mother of 2, working from home, and it's also school holidays, right? It's also school holidays for our little ones, and I was just thinking, Elaine, if you allow me to ask question too, as also one of your participants, you see, at night, my children, before they sleep, they they love to ask for story time. They loved that I share stories with them, right? And the point where share stories, literature and life, from literature and life, that can also help discuss a point to some of these learner profile attributes. I thought that was great. Are there any books or stories you could recommend? Is there a place where I could go through a list to pick up some of these books, whether it's delivery, from book access or MPH, or online resources?
I think, all right, there's a lot of moral books. I'm not sure if a lot of parents are like, growing up, I read very common books like The Boy Who Cried Wolf. So, the moral of the story in that was lying breaks trust. So even if you're telling the truth, no one believes a liar. So a very common title, I think you can get this in any bookshop, like The Boy Who Cried Wolf, The Golden Touch. So the golden touch is, Midas wanted, he made a wish that his finger, everything he touched would turn gold. But the moral of the story here is that, greed will always lead to downfall. So another great title that I actually really liked was this, it's called The Golden Egg. I'm not sure if everyone has heard of that book, but it's a farmer with a goose that laid a golden egg every day. So one day he decided to kill the goose and cut his stomach open to find in hopes of finding all the golden eggs.
Yeah.
But all he found was guts and blood. So the moral here was never act before things. So all this actually, simple stories that although some of it might sound a bit gruesome, like cut the goose open, these simple stories that we read to our children during that time, they actually carry a lot of moral. And I think that it's good if you spend a little time to find out what the morals are, or discuss with your kids, what is the moral of the story.
Okay. Thank you for that, Miss Elaine. Yes, now it brings back memories of all those stories that I've heard before when I was younger, and it's time to repackage it and share it with my children. Yes. Thank you. Any questions from the crowd? If you don't mind, switching on your camera, your video, it will really give us a lot more encouragement to be able to have this dialogue session with you. If anyone's comfortable to switch on your video, or just type in your messages at the chat box. Really like to hear from you. All right, I just give everyone some think time. Okay, sometimes we teachers at class 2, we tend to jump to questions too soon. So I'll just give everyone some think time to recollect. And meanwhile, I'd just like to share with you a little bit about our school. So Fairview is a group of, there are 5 schools in Malaysia itself and 1 in the UK. You are top 50 global IB school and top IB school in Malaysia. By the basis of our IB results. So an average student in our IB diploma program achieves an equivalent of 4 A stars in the A levels, right? So that is really amazing. Out of 45, our students achieve the average score of 37.4 and 38 this year. So that is astounding. And our students also get scholarship awards when they graduate from the IBDP. So 80% of all of IB students receive scholarship offers. We're the top IB school in Malaysia 2 years in a row. So it's last year, and the results just came out this year. And 90% of parents feel that communication at Fairview is frequent, delightful, and relevant, based on a survey that we recently had with 600 plus of our parents. So these are our IBDP results. This is 38 over 45, 100% pass rate for 7 years, right? And the IBDP is really no easy feat. Miss Elaine, who had experienced it herself, it's a 2 years program, very intensive, very rigorous, very comprehensive. But most of all, this is what universities admissions are looking for, employers are looking for, because of how the program develops our students, both academically, in terms of their 6 different subject groups. They're well-rounded, from the languages to math to sciences and to business or arts. On top of that, they also study 3 core subjects: the theory of knowledge, extended essay, community activity and service. Right? And with that, in 2 years, our students have done exceedingly well. So some of our uniqueness is the way we go about teaching and learning. That's our pedagogy. The prosper. Prosper is a framework, a well-being, and we also teach our students skills, the approaches to learning skills, which also won us the award, Teaching and Learning Award from CIS, Council of International Schools. And, you know, the music piece that I was playing earlier by Delaney, the violinist, okay, she's also part of our Everyone's a Musician program. So every child, even my two children, 7 and 10 years old, right, they pick up an instrument each to learn. So my girl, 10 years old, she's currently learning the flute. And my little one, my boy, turning 8 next year, is picking up the trombone. Yes, we selected the trombone for him, Miss Elaine. Okay, and these are all our campuses in KL, Subang, Johor, Penang, and Ipoh. So we cover from the north to the south just for you. You could check us out on our website by scanning on the QR codes or inquire within. Right, so this is a little bit of introduction for you about our school, Fairview International School. And yes, I hope that's given you some think time to see if you have any further questions for Miss Elaine or as a dialogue session. We're here all to share some thoughts or some comments. Feel free. All right, maybe then I will just I'm just so curious about our participants today. How many of you have children in the lower primary? You could just type 1 if you have children in the lower primary. 2 if you have children in the upper primary, like that would be 9, 10, 11. Lower primary is 8 and below, right? And the type 3 if you have children who are in secondary school, none in primary. Or 4, no children, but you know you're really interested about parenting and character building, hence you join us today. So 1, lower primary children. 2, if your children upper primary. 3, your child is in secondary. 4, you don't have children right now, but yeah, but we thank you for joining us. Oh, okay. Cindy has a question, not quite related to 1, 2, 3, 4. Cindy asks, is the quality of all schools teaching the same? You mean all the schools in the 5 campuses? Cindy? Yeah? Yes, right. Elaine, would you like to discuss that from a coordinator point of view? And I can also share from my point of view as the parent point of view.
Right. So we do have very strong collaboration. I think that is one of the strong suits that actually made us the top 50 IB schools. So even though we have 5 campuses across Malaysia and 1 in the UK, our planning and our documents are actually the same. So the delivery is the same. So I would definitely say that the quality of all the school teaching is exactly the same. Yeah, we also have, our numerous and weekly meetings with all our campuses via Zoom to ensure that everything is delivered the same. There is not much discrepancies, I would say, across our campuses.
Thank you, Elaine. If I may just add, right, on this side, if you can see the logo above on my screen, right? So I also represent University College Fairview. So that is the arm that trains our teachers through the postgraduate diploma in education. And there are modules there that are certified by the IBS Level 1 certificate with the International Baccalaureate Organization. So we are one of the 50 USDs in the world, and a few in in Asia that is certified to conduct this program. So all our teachers who join us will go through the postgraduate diploma in education as part of their training program. So on top of what Miss Elaine mentioned, the highly collaborative nature of all teachers meeting weekly to plan, right? They are also trained in the IB teaching and learning, IB pedagogy through the University College Fairview, which is something that all our teachers embrace when they join us. Okay, Cindy, does that answer your question? Yes. Okay. Thank you, Cindy, for that question. Right. Do we have any other questions or comments? Come share with me. Are your children in the lower primary, upper primary? Aradia, Cindy, Meili, Miss Tom, Megat, Samantha, Tiffany, and Leona. If it's possible, just type for me. 1, if your child is in lower primary. 2, if your child is in upper primary. Thank you, Tiffany. Lower primary. Upper primary be 2, 3 if it's secondary, 4 and not applicable. Oh, Miss Leona has a question. How do we sustain a child independent skills? Oh, that's a great question. How do we sustain? So we talk about developing. So Leona is extending it to sustaining their independent skills.
I suppose it boils down to consistency, right? So if there's a lot of times where we need to create, like I said earlier, right? We create a lot of environment or intentionally create this environment for our child to have independence, right? Again, maybe it's their nature to be a little bit more dependent on others, but when you keep pushing your child to make these conscious independent decisions themselves, it is a lifelong skill that they have. It's not just you do it 1 or 2 times. Like I said, it's consistency. If you consistently do it, eventually the child picks up that habit to sustain that skill itself. Yeah, so it's not just a one-off thing. It's not like, okay, this is my holiday project, make my child more independent. But it's, everyday little things that you ask, that you do, that that you say to your child, that encourage and sustains this skill itself within them.
Thank you. Thank you, Elaine.
That helps.
Yes. Right. Okay, before I go to Cindy's question, Miss Leona, did that answer your question, Leona? Or would you like to have a follow-up question on that? If you're all right with that, could you give a thumbs up or comment? Yes, Leona has said yes. Okay, Cindy's question. Do all campuses hold competitions?
I will answer that on behalf of our academic team. Right. So yes, we do hold competition, both internal and external competitions. So internally, we do have what we call like spelling quiz competitions. We have maths competitions. We also have external competitions where the students participate in external competitions such as kangaroo math. I think the Olympiad math also.
Olympiad,
and then
yes.
Yeah, correct. So then there's also English, I think writing, storytelling. I think it was 2 years ago that we did it physically, but now it's online, so it's a little bit tricky there. Yeah, so we do participate. Yes, for PYP students, we have competitions.
Yeah.
It's not just for MYP.
Also for music, I recall seeing our school sending teams of students from the upper primary and secondary for music competitions because all our students learn an orchestra instrument. So I think also
so
voice,
I think
choir.
it was it last year? There was a competition held in Genting, I think orchestra for school competition among the orchestra team. So I think our wind and strings team also got second and the first place consecutively. Yeah, but it comprises not just of, again, not MYP, which is middle years program students. It's a lot of them were the primary years program students.
Indeed.
I think we also had like a primary 3 student who took part in orchestra.
Right. Thank you. Right. Thank you, Cindy, for asking all these questions. Yeah, appreciate it, Cindy. Great. Thank you. Right. Anything else from anyone? Any other thoughts or questions about the school, about building character in your child step by step? So we all have a plan this school holidays for our little ones. Yeah, I still recall with the question of independence. When my little one was growing up, they love to do things themselves, right? So when we set up like a la did the Montessori stations, life skill stations at home, for them to transfer, to pour water. It was it's simple, but yet they were very, very thrilled. Right. And then also teaching them the independence that it's okay if you mess up, like you pour water. I mean, it's just water, not milk. But if you actually pour water on the floor, it's okay. But you got to take the cloth and clean up after yourself. So mommy won't do it for you, all right? But mommy will have all the things there for you to be able to clean up. So they also don't get too frightened when they mess up, because they know that, hey, I can fix this. It's okay if I mess up at times, I can fix this. But next time I should be more careful, because they're building their little motor skills of pouring and transferring. Yeah. So children like that, I see. Yeah, they want to be independent, and try to do things themselves. And we are there to encourage them within that safety limit. Yeah, calculating our risk and assessing our risk as well all the time. Okay, right, let me just check any more from the chat box. At the moment. All right, then I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of Fairview International School to thank Miss Elaine Wong. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing with us, Miss Elaine. And to all our participants today, thank you for joining us and spending your Saturday morning, coming to afternoon very soon, with us. I hope you have enjoyed the session and gave us all some thought to reflect on, or some strategies, as we care for our children from home. Stay safe, everyone. And we have upcoming series of webinars, so do join us. Do follow and like us on our Facebook, and so you get all the updates of our upcoming sessions, from the primary years to the middle years to the diploma, the approaches to learning workshops. We have all that lined up for you throughout the holidays and beyond. Okay, so thank you all for joining us once again. Stay safe, take care, have a good weekend. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.